Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Inside the FLX podcast. I'm Josh Durso, and as always, we are here in the FingerLakes1.com studio in downtown Seneca Falls. Today we have Chairman of the Seneca County Board of Supervisors, Bob Shipley, in studio. Bob, thanks a lot for coming on.
You're welcome, and good afternoon.
So, for those of you who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with Seneca County politics, and what you've done.
Well, I've been on the Board of Supervisors since 2004. So I've been there for a little while. Mm-hmm. I have a wife and a son and a daughter. Jeff runs the Seneca County Chamber of Commerce, and my daughter lives in San Francisco and works for Chevron Oil Company.
Mm-hmm. Now, you taking over, you have been the chairman of the Seneca County Board of Supervisors before. Taking it over this year, what were sort of your goals for 2017, or what were some of the things that you really wanted to latch your teeth into?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I had three main points that I came forward with. And the first one was, number one, our people. Mm-hmm. People are, as you well know, our most important resource. And for quite a few years now, Seneca County has been labeled with a training county, only because we bring people on board, we get them trained, they're in the job for a couple years, and they leave for an adjacent county for basically the same job, but better benefits and more pay. Mm-hmm. So that's my number one goal, is working with the new both Finance Committee, the Personnel Committee, to work on our collective bargaining to bring those type of jobs, at least the first 5 years for new hires, to bring them up to an area that we can retain people. Mm-hmm. I had just read that a study was done, and to retrain new employees, to bring them on board, normally cost anywhere between 90 and 200% of the person's salary just to get them up to speed. Yeah. So the bottom line is, it's costing the county and our taxpayers money to do that every time. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank you and Finger Lakes One for being at our board meetings, for accurately reporting what happens at those meetings, and because you become a check and balance for the people that don't attend the board meetings.
Mm-hmm. Now, to that point, we'll get to the other two things that you wanted to address this year, but while it's fresh on everyone's mind, this has been something that it seems like, in my observations and covering the board meetings, every single month you guys are or have been addressing either a vacancy or someone resigning or someone leaving for another opportunity, and that has to be just a kind of a beatdown for the county, because it's like you're never making up any ground. You fill a position, then another one leaves. It's like one step forward, two steps back.
Well, yeah, to some degree that's true, but also the other part of it is we have a lot of people that have become retirement age and they have moved on, and every time we tend to fill retirements, we try and fill them from within.
Right. We
look to our own county workforce to elevate those people. So when you elevate people that are currently in a job, it creates more vacancies. So yeah, you do get the trickle-down effect.
Now, what were some of those two other key issues? Because you've actually made a really good case of your first 2 months during every meeting, sort of making it very clear what you do want to address this year.
Well, my second one is economic development. And that stems from, as you well know, there are two ways to reduce taxes. You can either cut services, which we don't want to do, or you can expand your tax base.
Right.
The best way to expand our tax base is economic development. And with the economic activity here in Seneca County, I think a few people have been out to the new Del Lago Casino, and that is really going to be a multiplier and an economic driver for the Route 318, 414 corridor. So that alone is we have to be prepared for new businesses. But at the same time, we can't forget the businesses that we already have. So quite honestly, it's a double-edged sword. We have to look at how do we become a business-friendly county? Because let's be right up front, New York State is not a business-friendly state. As much as the governor promotes that, you got to take a look at our tax structure. And you'll notice that I try and start out every meeting with the phrase that Seneca County has sent in our currently $111,958 every week to Albany to pay for our share of Medicaid. Now, a lot of people, that's a big number, and we're a small county.
Every week.
Every week.
Every week.
Every
52
week.
times a year.
You got it. And when you break that down, that is a little over 60% of our total tax levy. So that doesn't give us a lot of room for other programs or expansions or development in our own people and training. And, there's a host of things that we could be doing. So that's my number two is to drive the economic development. And with that in mind, you'll notice in my committee appointments, and I did something a little differently this year than other chairmen. I asked for the majority leader and the minority leader, and we all sat down as a threesome, and we put all the committees together. Right. I explained my reasoning, how I wanted to develop some core committees.
Right.
And you'll notice, looking at them, that there's a lot of the same people on some of these committees, as they all fit together.
Right.
So part of that is I'm looking for help in both the economic development arena, as far as our IDA and our Chamber of Commerce and our Board of Supervisors to work closer, to bring it all together. There has been a lot of disconnect the past few years with the IDA board. And, those folks are doing a great job for us. And they really don't get a lot of recognition for the time they spend putting all these deals together. And all they get is criticism for the pilot projects that they put together to try and retain and bring in economic development. So I'm trying to get them all to work closer together. And there is going to be a few things happening in the near future with both the IDA and the Chamber of Commerce to work closer together. So I'm very excited to hear that.
Now, one of the things that was talked about briefly in the beginning part of the year is actually the structure of committees in Seneca County. It's something that's been talked about, toyed with, to cut down some of the length at your committee meetings and things like that. Is it something that you feel is feasible to get done in 2017, or do you think it's something that will continue to be talked about and mulled over before a real decision is made?
Well, that same subject has been discussed for the past handful of years. The county manager, at my request, put together some guidelines to try and reduce the committees from the current 13 down to 6 or 7. That didn't get a lot of support from the current supervisors. So that's probably going to go by the wayside. So we just refilled those committees. But I did it a little different way this time with the help of Cindy and Lee. And we tried to group some people on some of these core committees to make this happen. So it would make things flow a little easier. And we'll see if that works.
What is when you take on something like this? Obviously, being the chairman of this board is really important. What are sort of you have your goals for 2017, but then do you ever sort of sit back and think, this is kind of the picture I'd like to see painted 3-4 years from now from the impact that I'm having right now?
Well, some of these are long-range goals.
Right.
Some of them are short-term. And realistically, most of the time, government just works very, very slowly, as you have well seen.
Yeah.
So the quicker you start it, the better off you are to get it in process. And I think that you're going to see that as an outflow.
Now, infrastructure, water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure is always a hot button issue in Seneca County. A water authority is one of those items that's been discussed and debated probably for the last 10 years or as long as you've been on the board. What is your outlook on that subject? Do you think a water authority, or do you think a better way to manage the water issues in Seneca County is on the horizon?
Well, that's really the $64 question. Both the water and sewer districts that are currently run, we have 2 water and 1 sewer district, and with the economic development, Seneca County, you're going to see going to bid probably in April or late May. We're going to come out with a $10 million sewer system down the length of 318 from just west of the outlet center all the way over to 414. And that we hope is going to drive economic development in that corridor. But so we're going to end up with 3 county sewer areas and the 1 water area. We have really struggled the past few years trying to run those efficiently. I can attribute some of that to the fact that we haven't really had county managers. We have had a real tough record in the past handful of years trying to retain and give a county manager time to get their feet wet, to become engrossed in developing the county and putting their own stamp on the thing. But I think we have a great county manager right now. I think he is struggling with some learning issues as far as some of the board members. But I think we have a great plan, and we're at as far as the sewer and water goes, we're looking for we're going to be going out for some RFPs for some outside companies to basically run the water and sewer district for us. That may circumvent the need to have an authority.
Right. So as far as that goes, some of the issues and debates that have come up within the county, one around an odor ordinance. Talk to us a little bit, if you could, about that odor ordinance. You've spoken at length before about it. Just tell us a little bit about what the concept of it is and why you think that's sort of an important issue that Seneca County handle right now.
Well, the odor issue has been a hotly debated issue. And I'll tend to leave that to the town that controls it. The biggest reason for that, to see what they can come up with. The environmental committee took it upon themselves working with an environmental attorney to try and help and get the issue rolling. Whether or not it'll be solved by the local town that controls the biggest culprit of that or not. Realistically, the odor issue was not a problem that many years ago. It's just in the past couple of years that the issue really has come to the forefront, and it's mostly outside of the county or of the town where the user is located, where the issues come up. The folks in Waterloo have long endured this odor problem. We see it moving out to the town of Tyre, to the town of Junius, and hopefully something can be done on that. I guess the jury is out until we see what happens. Anytime that you talk about a county resolution, it's going to have to go through committee, and there will be some healthy debates, and we'll see where that goes.
Now, just at this last committee meeting, there was a debate around body cameras for deputies and Town of Seneca Falls Police. Talk to us a little bit about your feeling on body cameras and how they actually benefit the officers and the departments.
Yeah, well, part of the discussion was one of the supervisors suggested that the body cameras were more for the people that were being affected. And another supervisor came right back with, no, it's basically for the protection of the officers. And that's the side I come down on here. Praise the sheriff for moving on this issue and using the Stop DWI monies to update these body cameras. And we've had an issue just recently where a traffic stop was made, and after the fact, a person filed a complaint against the officer, alleging some problems with the officer's accountability during the stop. The sheriff went back to the body camera, watched the whole scene, called the person up, and says, "Look, we've got this all on tape. If you want to continue with this, God bless you, but we'll bring this to court." And the complaint was dropped. Now that's a great tool for the sheriff's department to use and the local police departments. I wish all of them would get involved with this, because we would try and work with all the villages and all the police departments around Seneca County to help them out to move forward.
Now, it costs money up front, but in that scenario that you just played out, that ultimately saved the county money because you didn't have to go to court.
Yeah, there's no prosection there, so what does that cost? And God forbid, you look around the country, all the problems with some of these larger metropolitan areas, with those police departments, and boy, I really believe that the body camera issue is more of a protection for the actual police officers than it is for the people that are complaining.
Now, one of the things that you and a few other supervisors this week are going to be meeting with Senator Helming to discuss some of the unfunded mandates and everything else on that front. What is the kind of message that you would like to see the state legislators across the board, not just here in central New York, but everywhere, sort of take on to help counties, not just Seneca County, but all counties across the board?
Well, unfortunately, our agenda list, as was discussed at the board meeting the other night, we probably got more agenda items than the senator has to give us time to address all those. But quite honestly, it does come down from Albany. Since the mid-'60s, it seems like mandates, I'll call them unfunded mandates and underfunded mandates, have been placed on the counties to pick up the slack so that Albany can move on to other areas.
Right.
And the biggest contributor is Medicaid. As I pointed out earlier, it's almost $112,000 a week that we have to send to Albany. That's 61% of our tax levy. It's pretty difficult when our legislators in Albany enacted what they called a 2% tax cap on property taxes, and then they increase all the mandates that we have to account for. It doesn't fit. And the nice thing about it is Senator Helming was a town supervisor from the town of Canandaigua. So she has seen both sides of this issue. So we're hoping, and we know that she's going to work with us to do what she can to bring that to the rest of the Senate and the legislative floor to work on all issues.
Now, speaking of dollars and cents, the sheriffs have a new contract, much to everyone's relief, because this has been something that's been ongoing for a long period of time. Your thoughts on just having this issue now behind the county and being able to sort of take the next steps?
Well, I was very glad to see the new personnel committee step in at the last board meeting and take up that issue, because we've had some of our folks in our corrections department that have been working without pay increases of any kind for the last 3 years. The contract that was approved did include some retroactive payment to these folks, but it helps bring them up. And we go back to that same issue that we talked about as far as training and people leaving the county for similar jobs in other counties that have better benefits and higher pay scales. So I was so happy that the board decided not to postpone that for another 2 weeks or a month and a half and move on that to get the people the money that they were rightly due.
Now, as far as the county itself goes, one of the interesting aspects of covering the board, from my point of view, is this apparent, or what appears to be, divide between the North and South. And it always seems like the chairman of the board is tasked with trying to keep peace between both sides. And I just wonder what the right combination is, from your point of view, to make everything sort of one continuous flow, rather than that be like two separate sides on those issues.
Well, that has been discussed in some detail previously. And realistically, I don't think it's a north-south issue. I think the thing that most of the southern portion of Seneca County, the supervisors, at least down there, they realize that the northern part of Seneca County has the greatest population.
Right.
And so consequently, more than likely, we're going to be dealing with some issues at the northern end that we would like to do at the southern end. You know, case in point is this investment in the sewer line on 318. You know, that's helping the northern two towns of both Junius and Tyre. And realistically, how is that helping the southern towns? Right. And you know, we have so many great wineries around the lake, and from the Chamber of Commerce, they go to the chamber meetings, and the biggest thing they talk about is wanting sewer and water to help them grow. And realistically, I agree with them 100%. And it's just that, you know, you use that old adage, you got to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. So we're trying to address that, and we'll come up with some type of a solution. And the more sewer and water pipes we can put in the ground, the more our county is going to grow as a whole.
Now, as far as that goes, it seems like you've talked about people, you've talked about the importance of having good people, the right people doing various jobs. Give us a sense of, you talked a little bit about it earlier, but a sense of how good a job County Manager Shepard is doing in his day-to-day in actually putting together some good plans for Seneca County that you guys can execute.
Well, a lot is placed on his shoulders to go out and research the issues, come back to the board, and try to explain it to us intelligently, and give us the pluses and the minuses. And you would trust when that happens, the board is going to agree with his assessment and bless what he's asking for. I think one of the issues is he comes from a larger county, that he was actually on the Board of Supervisors for that county for a number of years. So he's seen things from both sides of the issue, both sides of the aisle, so to speak. And there's probably a little bit of a learning curve that goes into that, but he's doing a great job, and we're definitely moving forth.
Now, as far as you've talked about what your sort of top issues are, but it seems like getting the IDA involved specifically with the county board to gain some of the members of the county board's trust has to be a priority for this year, right? explain, if you could, because there has been discussion about bringing the IDA in on a regular basis to give the board updates. Is that the answer, or is it just both parties working together more all month?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both those topics, quite frankly. With the economic development, we need to develop an economic strategy, to implement this especially. And that's why I've asked the IDA board and the Chamber of Commerce, who really are both in charge of trying to drive economic development throughout our county. That and sometimes the IDA can't always come into a public meeting and sit down and say, so-and-so wants to build a factory and hire 400 people to start. And all they got to do is buy this piece of land. Well, it doesn't happen that way. Most of the time, they're limited to what they can say until the deals are consummated. And sometimes some of the supervisors feel a little frustrated that they're not a part of the process.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in and thanks for talking to us. I'm sure we're going to be having you back here before the end of the year. There's lots of stuff going on in Seneca County and plenty more we could talk about.
Well, I appreciate the invitation, and I'm ready to come back whenever you want me.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it for us today. I'd like to thank Bob for stopping by, and as well as all of our listeners for making us a part of your week. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and download the FingerLakes1.com app for the latest news, information, and podcasts. For Supervisor Bob Shipley, I'm Josh Durso, inviting you to join us next week on Inside the FLX.